Now that you have all of the history information gathered for the story that you want to write, you need to consider what the conflict is going to be in your story. Every good story has a conflict. Very early in your story, possibly by the second paragraph, we need to know the thing that the characters or the character is struggling with. Okay, this can be all the characters in your book, or this can be the main character. But what are they struggling with, or what are they upset about? What is the mounting problem? Okay, that's why you see this climber climbing up a mountain, because this is the increasing thing in your book that gets your reader hanging on to what is going to happen, what is going to happen, what is going to happen. Okay, so as you are building this conflict, right off the bat, we need to see who has this struggle, okay? Who has this struggle? Who is upset? Who has the problem? You also need to make sure that your reader is aware of what is the struggle or situation, okay? So by that second paragraph in your story, or very, very close to the beginning of your story, you want to make sure your reader understands what that struggle is, what that situation is that is mounting, what that problem is, what they're upset about, okay? And you need to think about, how is it going to get worse? In most stories, things get worse before they get better, or things get worse before they, hit that climax, is what we call it. So you need to think about, how is it going to get worse? Is it an illness? Is the character homesick? Is there bad treatment for the character? Or what other increasing misfortune or problem or trouble is going to happen in your story? So those are the three things that you need to consider as you are building your conflict and revealing this conflict to your reader right off the bat, okay? And once you have your conflict established, then you need to think about the climax. This is where the story hits its highest point or its lowest point, okay? Sometimes it's a really high, great point, and sometimes it's where the character hits rock bottom. But this is what the reader has been waiting for. This answers the question that the reader has been asking and asking and asking. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? This is what keeps your reader reading, okay? So there are two questions that that you need to answer for your climax, okay? What event triggers the change, okay? What event triggers this highest point or lowest point? Okay, what is it that's going to happen in your story that brings it all together? Okay, that answers what's going to happen for your reader. And then to bring your story down at the end, how will this change the character or their life? And that's how you will end your story. So you build and build and build and build, and there's this trigger that changes something and reveals what's going to happen to your reader. And then there's the ending, where we see how this change changed the character's life, or changed their situation, or changed their future. Okay? So those are the two questions you'll need to answer for your climax. And once you have all of this historical information, once you know what your conflict is, okay, and that's what you're going to do with this worksheet, okay? So if you notice here, very early in your story, possibly by the second paragraph, we need to know the things that the characters are struggling with, upset about. What is the mounting problem? So in this first box, you're going to write who has the struggle. In the second box, you're going to write what the struggle or situation is. And in the third box, you're going to write how it is going to get worse. Now remember, in these boxes, I don't want your entire story written out. I just want a few words. This is just where we're getting our ideas down. These are just bullet points, okay? So if the struggle, let's say, is maybe you chose the time period of slavery in America, and you're writing about a black teenager who has escaped from his plantation, and he is trying to get to the north where he's going to be free. So the struggle that he's having is being a slave and being owned, and so, your character, whatever you want to name him, would be who is having the struggle. His struggle is that he does not want to be owned anymore, that he wants to be free, and that he has to travel a long ways to get across that Mason-Dixon line to the north to be free. Okay? And you're going to you're going to just mention that in that box, trying to get to the Mason-Dixon line, getting away from his plantation. Okay. Doesn't have to be full sentences. This is just bullet points, just ideas in these boxes, so that when you go to write your story, you can expand upon it. You can put lots of details and everything in it. In the last box here, you are going to write how it is going to get worse. Okay, so maybe put a few things. Maybe he gets chased by people who are looking to capture black people and take them back to their plantation owners and get a reward. Maybe he is being maybe he is having to be in some really horrible, yucky situations. Maybe he has to hide in mud. Maybe he has to go without food. There's going to be many different struggles and situations that he's going to, bad misfortunes that he's going to go through. So that's where you would list a couple of those. All right. If you're going to write about Native Americans and how they were, and the Trail of Tears, then who has the struggle, that's going to be your character that is being kicked off of their land, and what their struggle is this horrible trip that they're taking, and they don't even know where they're going, and the increasing misfortunes or maybe all the bad things that are happening to them from the white person that is and from the white man that is kicking them off their land. So those are some examples of how you would fill out the conflict. The climax, this worksheet, you're going to first fill out what event triggers the change. Okay, so maybe the event that triggers the change is that if we're thinking about the teenage boy who ran away from his plantation, maybe he meets Harriet Tubman, and that is the event that changes him, because he knows who Harriet Tubman is. He's heard about her, and he knows that she's going to get him to freedom. And how will this change the character's the character or their life? This may change the character in such a dramatic way because that character can now be free. So gains freedom. You can be imaginative. What kind of things does he do now in his life that now that he's free? What kind of awesome advancements does he make? What kind of things does he learn? What kind of job does he get? What kind of money does he make? There's so many ways that you can give the, so to speak, happy ending if that's what you want for your story. So that's some examples of your climax and your conflict. And so basically go ahead and fill in these worksheets and then use your imagination and start writing. Okay, if you want some feedback on the worksheets before you start writing, just get those submitted and I can give you some feedback. And just don't be afraid to really be imaginative. Don't forget to use some quotes, and some conversation in your story. And just go ahead and use your imagination, use a lot of vivid detail, and really draw your reader in. If you have any questions about this while you are getting started, just let me know.